Prepare for trouble!
And make it double!
To protect the world from boredom.
To unite all peoples within doll fandom.
To customize all the dolls we love.
To extend our views to the stars above.
Alex.
Barb.
Enchanterium blast off at the speed of light.
Subscribe now or prepare to fight.
Meowth, that's right.
Wait, who said that?
Oh, it's Nathalie from DollMotion. Hi, Nathalie.
Hi everyone. I was thinking about a collaboration with you two. Let's make a Pokemon collab. You know I love Pokemon-inspired dolls.
Sure, we love them too, and finally decided to make one as well.
Do you have any specific theme in mind?
Oh, first generation kitties. I want to do a Mew-inspired doll.
That sounds great! Let's make it happen. We know Meowth mostly as a character from the anime Pokemon. In the English dubbing, his voice actress is an intersex transgender woman, and we all know it's illegal to be straight in June. So that's why we're going to make our Meowth a transgender boy. Also, all the members of the Team Rocket trio are a bit queer, so it fits. We're going to start with a Lazy Heart's body and the shrunken Blondilocks head we prepared for making Akali, but in that project we ended up using Vandala's head instead. It's a lot smaller and stiffer than the regular head, which means it will be good for a male character and for face modification. Meowth doesn't really have a snout, but I want to add it anyway to mimic his wide cat mouth. That's a weird looking mustache, sir. I'm trying to make his face less rectangular by sanding the jaw with a Dremel tool and later with sandpaper. Now it's time for some serious body mods. I'm marking my lines like on these plastic surgery photos, but way more ugly. And then cutting those parts with a Dremel and a knife.
No!
Bye bye boobies! We have a body that looks more like a boy silhouette, but also has 3 big holes, and that's not what we want. But he seems happy already. I'm stuffing the holes with aluminum foil to use less clay, and so he doesn't weigh too much. I'm using epoxy sculpt as this is my favorite type of clay. It's strong and stiff, and the most important feature is that it dries without baking. For sculpting, I'm mostly using a silicone tool from both sides, a scalpel, and sometimes my fingers. When doing body modification, you want to make it as smooth as you can so there's no polishing after it cures, and a drop of water can help you with that. His waist doesn't have to be this thin anymore, and I would like him to have a thicker neck and a bit more muscles on the shoulders. He's not the manliest man in the world, but hey, here in Enchanterium, we accept feminine boys too. I don't know why, but a lot of Ever After High dolls have broken necks. Luckily, it's very easy to fix with superglue if you have the missing part. The head was shrunken in diluted acetone, and it's very stiff, so cutting the peg is necessary to fit in the head. I think Howlin's hands with claws will suit him better than these delicate hands from Lizzie. I put the head back on and the neck looks ridiculously long. This is probably not a standard transitioning procedure, but I'm going to cut his neck in half and shorten it. I cut a bit from both sides, and I'm using a toothpick and hot glue to fill the gap. And 2-part epoxy glue to reattach the neck to the body. Then epoxy sculpt comes back again to fix the part in place, hopefully without any evidence of what we just did to this poor boy. I left sculpting the ears for last because I wanted to have them blended into the head, and they might not survive placing the head on the body. I'm trying to make them as symmetrical as I can, but now I see they're not really the same, and honestly, that doesn't bother me too much nowadays. I like symmetry and geometrical designs, but when it comes to organic things, I realized it's not something you have to achieve at any cost. I'm going to give him a very short haircut with flock on the sides and the back. And Barb suggested to fill all the head with epoxy to be sure the crazy cut surface doesn't peek through the hair. I'm using a mix of white, cream, and pale yellow acrylic paint. I haven't counted, but I think 3 layers was enough. After that, I'm giving him another 3 layers of matte acrylic varnish to protect the paint from scratching. Unfortunately, the paint came off from all the joints pretty quickly, and because I painted the head and the body together, the sealant doesn't protect the top part of the neck from chipping. I don't have any idea how to fix it, and I hope it won't be too visible. Meowth's feet and tail are partially brown, so I'm making a gradient from cream to brown using pastels. Being inspired by Siamese cats, I decided to give him the same fate on hands too, to add more visual interest. This is how the body looks compared to a vanilla Ever After High doll. For now, my turn is over, but before I let Barb speak, I want to tell you that this video is sponsored by Skillshare. Skillshare is an online learning community with thousands of inspiring classes for creative and curious people. Explore new skills, develop existing interests, and get lost in creativity. It's curated specifically for learning, meaning there's no ads, and they are always launching new premium classes so you can stay focused and follow wherever your creativity takes you. Last month, we made 2 dolls inspired by a music video, and our next doll will be MV inspired as well. That's why, as a person who's interested in music videos and video production and editing, I took some classes on this topic on Skillshare. One of my favorites was Video on a Budget, Prepare for Your Shoot Without Breaking a Bank by Christopher Rhodes. What I liked about this course is that it has a lot of helpful knowledge as well as small tips with which I can improve our videos for your viewing pleasure. If you want to join this creative community, the first 1,000 of our subscribers to click the link in the description will get a 1-month free trial of Skillshare so you can start exploring your creativity today. Barb, take it away.
Thank you, Alex. Since this boy's body is different from anything I've sewn for before, we're going to have to do some creative work with the patterns I already own. I'm starting with a red long sleeve shirt that I will make from a sweater pattern for the regular Monster High dolls, since it's not tightly fitted. I'll cut it short, kinda crop length, since it's going to be hidden. I cut the pieces out of red cotton using my rotary blade. First, I'm going to hem the bottom of the sleeves and the bodice. The next step is adding some detail. I cut a simple strip design to press on the sleeves, and I made sure it lays more or less in the center. The strip simply says Team Rocket on it. I press it in place with the help of my trusty helper Jerry. The obligatory peeling footage, which was a bit disappointing since we lost one of the O's. Oh well. I'm going to sew the sleeves shut now, which isn't standard practice for doll clothes, but I've seen people do that on human-sized garments. This pattern is not my favorite as it requires a lot of hand sewing, which is not my favorite activity. After hemming the neckline and stitching the shoulder seams, I can painstakingly set the sleeves in. The bodice needs to be the wrong side out, and the sleeves need to be right side out. My hack for setting the sleeves in is to put something inside them, like a pen. Then, after getting consent from the bodice, you can stick the whole package into the appropriate hole and match the seam of the sleeve with the bottom of the hole. After the alignment is right, I use a couple of pins to keep everything in place. Next, you just have to secure the edges together. I actually find the process easier while the pen is in the sleeve, since it's easier not to poke to the other side and catch fabric that you didn't intend to sew together. I used to do a lot of cross-stitching, so it's not that I don't enjoy the process, it's just that it always looks bad, and the machine can do a much cleaner seam, so I avoid hand sewing for that reason. The final result is not the prettiest, but it works. After sewing in the other sleeve and tidying up the loose threads, it's time to do the first fitting. I marked the overlap of the shirt in the back so I can add some Velcro, which I happily harvested from doll clothes. I have yet to find Velcro this thin in any sewing stores. After the back closure is done, we can have a peek on how it looks on our Meowth. I didn't intend to make it look fabulous, and it's definitely giving me Temin advice music video vibes, this outfit specifically. I'm almost mad that it's going to be mostly covered up. For the bottoms, I opted out for a stretchy brown fabric, since the ease of the material will allow me to use my trusty pen pattern without worrying about the fit. I sewed the back and front rise all the way up, not hemming the waist since it will be hidden, and I didn't want the necessary bulk and work. Then it's just a long inner seam, before which I folded the cuffs of the leg holes. That easy, just 3 seams this time. Flip them over, and let's try them on too. To protect the paint from devastation. I'm kidding. But actually I'm not. I'm wrapping the body with a piece of cloth to protect it from devastation. After 2 coats of Mr. Super Clear Sealant, I'm sketching the basic features. I'm starting from defining the mouth, as this is the part I'm most curious about. Meowth doesn't have a nose, but this doll does, so inspired by real cats, I'm painting a tiny nose with light brown pencil.
I had some trouble with planning his eyes. Do I want them more human or cat-like, or do I stick to the original Meowth shape? After a few tries with a light yellow pencil, I decided on very big eyes. Meowth has white eyes with very narrow pupils, but it just didn't look good on this doll, so I decided to catch the same vibe by keeping irises very slit and adding a round pupil. I think he looks more human because of this, but still has the cat touch. There's some dust on his cheek that I wish I could remove, and I think a few freckles can cover that. The expression I want is, I'm a cute kitty, but I'm also evil, if that makes sense. Something similar I did for Nia a few months back. No matter if you're a boy, or a girl, or a non-binary person, here at Enchanterium, everyone receives lashes. That's what it is. That's the law. As I said at the beginning, we know Meowth mostly from the original series of Pokémon anime. And as a child, my favorite Pokémon was probably Pikachu or Vulpix, but now I really enjoy seeing Team Rocket on the screen. They have the funniest lines, the coolest looks, and create the craziest situations. They may not be the greatest as human beings, but I adore them as characters in a cartoon. Using white paint, I'm adding a lot of details and catch lights, and as a last step, I added a highlight to the pupil to make it look slit. For short hairstyles, I like to use acrylic yarn. I tied short yarn pieces on this 3D printed holder and brushed it with a pet brush. Then, using a hair straightener, I'm making them straight and shiny. I have a very short hairstyle in mind, so the brushed leftovers will serve as a flock on the sides of the head. Off camera, I painted his ears, and now I'm gluing the flock onto his head using all-purpose glue. After an hour, the glue has dried, and I can remove the excess. Later, I applied a second layer of flocking because the head was peeking through in some places. On top of his head, I'm placing yellow yarn wefts. When it comes to doll hair, I have no experience with working around cat ears. The only similar project could be Nerine, as she has big horns. However, they are placed closer to the forehead, and it creates a different situation. I've seen doll artists do that many times, but seeing something is not the same as making it. I really like how the hair turned out, but I ended up adding wefts 3 times before I was satisfied.
For the final piece of this fit, I'm going to take a pattern off of this sleeveless thingy originally worn by Deuce. I took it apart in the reverse order of sewing, and I made sure to keep the Velcro to reuse in the final piece. Here are the pieces I'm working with. I'm going to cut them out of this mustard-colored cotton. Wait, did you think that was it? Alex designed an awesome vinyl composition for the vest, so that will have to be pressed on first. After weeding out the excess of vinyl, I am aligning the first piece, making sure I'll have enough fabric around to cut out the front piece. Then I just start layering the design. First goes the black base. Next are the green leaves, followed by the red Team Rocket logo. And finished with a few cute sunflowers. Since the transfer foil leaves a shiny texture after pressing, I give it all a press with a piece of cotton just to even out the texture. So cute! Now we can cut the pieces out. I'll start by assembling the hood at the top curve, and then hem both of the long edges. Then I'll stitch the shoulder seams and meet my enemy, the hand sewing needle again, to attach the strings from the original Deuce vest, since they're a really nice detail. Honestly, I probably wouldn't come up with adding the strings if they literally were not in my hand at this point. Then I can attach the hood to the bodice, which I also did by hand due to the weird shape of it. I stitched the seam allowance down to the shirt on the machine though. I hemmed the armholes by hand and sewn the side seams together. The last details are the bottom hem and adding Velcro at the back. Now the whole outfit is coming together. I had to awkwardly wiggle it up through his legs, but it complements the rest of the clothing perfectly. Let's put some good music on and finalize the look by making some shoes. I'm using Moonlight Jewel's flat shoe pattern again, since I fell in love with the sneakers when making Atlantis the first. Before I printed these, I made sure to cut the height down a little bit, since I didn't want to add too much height to the doll. I covered the bases with a few layers of white acrylic paint, and while that dried, I trimmed the pattern accordingly so the heights of everything matched. I also didn't have many eyelets left, so I cut down the number of them to 4 per side. I'll be making the upper of the shoe out of this faux brown leather and the sole with some white craft foam. I cut out the eyelet holes before stitching the upper pieces in pairs and top stitching them for a nice detail in the back. Then came the eyelets. I don't know if this kit is, let's just say, subpar, or if I'm just stupid, but it doesn't matter the configuration of the tools, there's always something wrong with the eyelets. It's either disgustingly wonky looking, or the tool gets stuck, or it doesn't actually work, but it looks kind of better, but I have to hammer some of it down by hand after. Either way, doesn't seem right. At one point, I actually broke the tool and spent a good 15 minutes trying to drop the pin thing into the chamber, and I was trying to record my misery, but it suddenly fell into place, so there's that footage. After muscling through the eyelets, it was time to assemble everything together. I glossed the tips of the bases with a gel polish top coat. I have a few old bottles that are probably expired, so I used them for doll stuff instead of throwing them out. Next, using the devil's glue, aka super glue, which has now started to leak through cracks in the tube, I'm adding the uppers to the base, followed by the tongues, and finally the white foam strips. I highly recommend using this pattern for your doll's sneakers needs.
To spice up the shoes, I'm painting a red line on top of the sole. I think it would suit the blouse, and it makes them look more like a Converse shoe. To decorate the soles, I'm using self-adhesive vinyl from Arteza. A cat needs a tail, and I'm going to use a modified Catherine the Muse tail. I heated it with a hairdryer and place it into cold water while holding the desired shape. I wish I did the whole before the paint job, it will be easier to blend the tail with the body. I'm attaching 1 magnet to the body and 2 magnets to the tail for a stronger fit. Then with my trusty epoxy sculpt, I'm connecting the magnets with the plastic and trying to create seamless transition. Off camera, I added a bit more swirl to the tip of the tail with silk clay. After 2 coats of acrylic paint, I'm adding another 2 of matte acrylic varnish for protection. Meowth has these exaggerated whiskers coming from his cheeks and also cute little antennas next to the ears. I wasn't sure how I should make them, so as a responsible adult, I left this problem for last. I was surprised how smooth and sticky the silk clay was when I did the tip of the tail, so I decided to try it this time too. With some water, a silicone tool, metal stick, and a lot of patience, I managed to do these spiky whiskers. We can't forget his signature gold Koban coin on his forehead. I've designed this Team Rocket logo with a different kind of green in mind, so let's adjust it quickly to my vision. I also added details to the sunflowers that represent a sunflora. This is Meowth's most frequently used Pokemon disguise in the anime, and I thought it fits his color palette. I added missing dots on the sleeve and painted his nose with glossy acrylic varnish.
This is how he turned out. To be honest, I was very much worried about the severity of the body modifications and being able to sew for them, as I didn't have the option to just take out a pattern I have and have it the easy way. I'm glad we decided to do the modifications though, as they turned out really cute and fitting for a teenage rebellious misfit like Meowth. Nathalie, thank you so much for collaborating with us.
Don't forget to check out DollMotion's Mew and her other fantastic Pokemon dolls.
Aw, thank you for having me. And I hope to see you over there with Mew.
Who's your favorite Pokemon? Let us know in the comments down below. My favorites are PJ, Yanma, Swirlix, and Arcanine.
And my favorite Pokemon is Psyduck. Make sure to follow us on Instagram for some sneak peeks and subscribe for future videos. Have an enchanted day, and we'll see you next time. Meow!